It is Sunday, 16th of June. Hello to you, listener or viewer. If you're catching this on our YouTube channel, increasingly popular venue for On the Whistle, Euro 24 reaction. On the way tonight, we've got a bit of Michael Coxey Cox. He's been to Hamburg today. We've got Lee from the... Sorry, what's Lee's second name? We got Lee Wingate from the Sweeper podcast, who's going to be briefing us on Austria ahead of the big clash with France. And in the studio, we've got Adrian Clarke. Hello, Adrian.
Hello, James. You all right?
I'm very well, thank you. And on our big screen, big Charlie Eccleshere. Hello, Charlie.
Hello. Hi, everyone.
Hello. Are you well, Charlie?
Yeah, very well. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. Those are the headlines then on day 3 at the Euros. What did you learn on day 3, Charlie? Anything?
Well, I thought that the kind of tradition of England having terrible first games of major tournament, that ghost had been kind of exercised at the last World Cup, which was, England was 6-0 up in that game. I think 1-6-2 in the end. But then it was back with a vengeance tonight, because that was everything that you imagine first game of a major tournament for England will be.
My word. 1-0 win, though, Adrian. What did you learn on day 3?
Much similar. I think swashbuckle will be in small doses for Southgate's England, but we knew that already. There were people out there that were thinking that with the slightly maverick Trent Alexander-Arnold in central midfield pick, that Southgate might just go a little bit bold and adventurous. But I think from around 35 minutes onwards, we saw the same old, didn't we? It was a tough watch.
Andrew Turner writing in says, what would Southgate do with Musiala and Wirtz compared to Nagelsmann? England looked lost for an hour with talented players getting wasted and subs ignored. Oh dear. A lot of negativity out there. We're going to try and turn that frown upside down in the course of today's show and give a bit of credit to Serbia, who came out and played in the second half, put a bit of pressure. We're also going to talk about all the other things that happened. The results anyway on day 3. We had 3 goals in Hamburg in the Group D game between Netherlands and Poland. Netherlands 2-1 winners. The Poles had opened the scoring with Adam Book. So Cody Gakpo and then Wout Weghorst answering for the Orange. Only 2 goals in the game in Stuttgart, where Slovenia and Denmark shared a 1-1 draw. And in Gelsenkirchen, just 1 goal scored by Jude Bellingham, which saw England beat Serbia 1-0. Let's start with Slovenia-Denmark. Just kidding. All right. Gelsenkirchen, Sunday night, Serbia 0, England 1. On the line from the stadium, here's Dan Sheldon. And YouTube viewers, that'll be in the podcast. That's exclusively for podcast listeners. You have to put in the hard yards if you want to hear Dan Sheldon. After which I shall say, Dan Sheldon is off to talk to Gaza. Dan Sheldon is off to talk to Gareth. Right, Charlie and Adrian, let's have our say. Well, first off, what did England and Gareth get right?
Well, I think the first half an hour was excellent. I thought that Harry Kane had 2 touches at half-time. Now, you might think that I'm strange in saying that that's something that we got right, but it worked for the team because Harry Kane was occupying a couple of defenders. He was stayed largely down the middle and in quite an advanced area. And it just allowed our star trio behind of Bellingham, Saka and Foden that little bit of extra space to go and run the game. And that's what they did. I thought with the help of Rice and Trent Alexander-Arnold, I thought that Bellingham and Saka in particular were outstanding in the first half. Absolutely superb.
What about at the back after all those question marks after over leaving Harry Maguire out and the defensive weakness? Mark Guehi with an excellent game, Charlie.
Yes. I didn't feel totally secure with that centre-back pairing, I have to say, as the game wore on. Yeah, maybe in the first half it kind of felt okay. I mean, it was one of those games where the first half was like, yeah, that's been good. That's a platform, and if we go and win this game, 2-0, 3-0, then all will be fine. The fact that then they didn't really kick on, and it was weird. I mean, it was almost as if Serbia drew confidence from the fact that it was only 1-0, because I think when England went 1-0 up, it felt like another was on the way. There was that Kyle Walker chance. And then when that didn't, they just seemed to grow in confidence and think, well, this is maybe there for us, and maybe sense the fact that England would retreat and wouldn't keep playing, and that's exactly what happened.
It became no risk football by England, didn't it?
And then it became risk football.
Well, yeah, but by being no risk football and by being conservative and trying to sort of basically sit on what we had, it certainly galvanised Serbia.
Yeah.
They stepped on the gas. They were able to get up the pitch 20, 30 yards higher. They played with aggression. We didn't, and it became much harder than it needed to be because we're significantly better than them, but we didn't look it.
England's last game at the European Championships 3 years ago saw them go 1-0 up and look really good for several more, but instead take their foot off the gas, drift backwards, and it all went so very wrong. It cost them the title. And in that sense, Charlie, I guess, although you were talking about opening matches, that's another way in which things haven't really moved on.
Yeah, and the opening match of that tournament was a 1-0 against Croatia, which, I mean, Croatia are a better team, so maybe that was more satisfying. But yeah, I think that's right. I mean, it is just odd because this debate has been going on for so long about Southgate and how negative or otherwise he is, but it can be tricky to feel too energised after performances like that. I think what you would say is that the opening game of a tournament doesn't have to mean loads necessarily. If there's so much time to improve, and we may well, if England go on to do as well as they should in this tournament, then I think this will be forgotten about very quickly. Teams often have very forgettable group stages, but it wasn't one that made you think, oh yeah, all of that's been forgotten, the fact that previously we've sat on leads and not really kicked on.
Right. And the other thing is this comes against the context of the first couple of days when you've seen Germany look absolutely spellbinding, Spain perhaps even better, even Italy coming back against the Albanians and looking delicious for much of that game. The rest of the world not very impressed with England's performance by contrast after those heavyweight teams had weighed in. Italy, the commentators are giving Southgate a hard time for not going to his bench, not stopping the game drifting away from England. Sasha Heino saying, do we have to watch England play again? Raphael Honigstein saying, what's the point of playing 45 minutes of suffer ball against Serbia? Come on.
Yeah, I find it hard to disagree with those sentiments, really. The teams that have impressed so far in the tournament have been front foot in style. They've played the game in the opposition half and looked really, really sharp and got their best attacking players onto the ball throughout the match. And that's what we did in the first 30 minutes. Bellingham ran the show. Bukayo Saka, brilliant movement. Coming short, spinning in behind. And we scored a great goal with those two combining. And then we just sat on it. And I thought that Southgate was really inactive in the second period. It's a familiar complaint from probably myself, also a number of England fans, tournament after tournament. It's what does he see during games? And I think that what I saw in that second half was Harry Kane coming in the game more, but coming shorter, meaning that we had no outlet. We lacked a little bit of pace going forward. We weren't able to stretch the game. And I thought it was, and Phil Foden was not having a particularly great game, not having a big influence. I just thought, Anthony Gordon, this game is screaming out for Anthony Gordon to come in on the left-hand side for Foden and stretch the game. Let's go a little bit longer, turn them and start to playing their half. And it never happened. And then we had that sort of, the substitution that Dan was talking about, where it's like almost a pre-planned sub of Gallagher for Trent Alexander-Arnold. Yeah, he won some second balls. Gallagher, he maybe helped us a little bit. But I felt that Southgate didn't really address the issues that the team needed in that second half to get further up the pitch. Bowen made a little bit of a difference, but one great run and cross for the Kane header. That was a great moment. Right. But I think things could have happened a lot earlier.
The header that did go in, which gave England the win, remarkable decision from Serbia not to in any way track one of the standout players of this past season for that. But after that, again, do they deserve some credit for this? Serbia, for coming back and making a real go of it.
They do, but I just think that they were definitely given encouragement. And they did make it difficult. They were very physical. And that's not easy to play against. They were playing, right on the line, quite a bit. But so they do. They played really well. And to Adrian's point about the lack of kind of England subs, Serbia were pretty proactive with theirs. They made some, took Mitrovic off pretty early. I did feel those England subs, they came at a time when it was already feeling quite flat and the game was sagging and England, it was all quite stodgy. And then you think, okay, we've got lots of good options on the bench. And then the subs they did make just didn't really lift things. But yeah, I mean, Serbia really, I think they definitely sensed there was something there for them. And they might well have nicked it. But yeah, it just kind of drifted away from England. And I do think that central midfield, I'd be very surprised if we don't see quite a bit of tinkering with that midfield. I think I'm not sure we'll finish the tournament with Trent playing centre mid.
Thursday, I think it is that England play Denmark, who drew 1-1 today with Slovenia. What do you anticipate Southgate doing for that? Will Trent be taking up a different role, or indeed no role in the team?
He had some moments in the game where he looked good, but he also got caught in possession a couple of times because it's an unfamiliar role for him to play sort of permanently during a match in central midfield. He hasn't done it too often. He got caught with his back to goal a couple of times. I just think there's more to being a central midfielder than just spraying passes around. You've got to offer a lot without the ball. Can you go and close people down? Can you go and win the ball back? Gallagher certainly improved us in regards to winning second balls. He was a little bit more aggressive in the middle of the park than Trent Alexander-Arnold was. I felt that. I also feel that Adam Wharton, I know he's a rookie, but someone like him, we were finding it hard to play forward passes in the second half. We weren't getting out of our own half at times. I thought maybe that might be a change that we could make. So he's got a lot of options there. And I agree with Charlie. I think there's going to be tinkering. And I personally would change Trent Alexander-Arnold in that central midfield position for the next game. I'm not convinced that that's the answer. He'll have good moments in that position, but I think as a rounded central midfielder, he's a little bit short. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I don't think there'll be loads of changes. I think Southgate will want to go. We know that he likes what he likes, and he tends to not change the formula too much. I think he'll want to go win that game, and then potentially be able to make some changes, maybe rest a few people for the final group game. I don't know. I find international football so interesting because you can't squad build in the way that you can at club level. So you have these kind of really imbalanced squads where you have loads of players in one position, but then it is kind of amazing to me that England don't really have an experienced, established. They've either got people like Wharton or Mainu who are just coming through, or they've got people like Jordan Henderson or Calvin Phillips on the other extreme who, for whatever reason, either age or things not having worked out, there's just no one really quite there yet to play with Rice. Or you do what Rice has done at times for Arsenal and play as a six, more or less on his own, but I don't think that's something Southgate's going to really want to do. But they need to find that formula, and it's going to be the kind of least imperfect solution, I think, potentially anyway.
All right, well, Thursday, Denmark awaits. Next up, let's talk a little bit about their game Sunday evening against Slovenia, and also the early game on Sunday, which came from Group D, as Poland played the Netherlands. Lovely stuff. Charlie, did you see much of Slovenia-Denmark?
I didn't. Only saw the highlights. So
all right.
I know more.
I think I'm the only person who saw the whole game.
It's all right.
Excellent. All right, Slovenia-Denmark finished 1-1. Sunday tea time. Christian Eriksen with the opening goal. About 15 minutes in. Wind assisted, as many people were tweeting. But then Slovenia smashing in a late equaliser through Erik Jansa. Erik Jansa had the answer. Sorry about that.
Nice.
Yeah. I mean, Christian Eriksen, that's a lovely story, isn't it? 3 years and 4 days after Denmark's opening game at the last European Championships saw probably some of the most dramatic scenes we've seen in a football match in recent years, and those horrible 13 minutes in which we thought many things might be happening, probably least of all that he might be coming back in 3 years' time to score Denmark's goal in the next European Championships.
Yeah, it is. It's incredible. And he's had, the whole thing, even him playing at all felt like a complete improbability. And then he came back and had that amazing time at Brentford where, getting to see a player that good just slotting in straight away and absolutely bossing it there. And he's come off a pretty difficult season. Again, like this is the thing. This is what's so fun about international football is it is just such a different competition, and you have a lot of players who maybe aren't thriving at their clubs, but then they find themselves in the right environment. But yeah, that will be one of the moments of the tournament. I think just with that background, amazing moment.
Adrian, you were talking about Eriksen and the Brentford spell.
Yeah, well, just in the context of what we see from him at Manchester United, I think that Eriksen now, this version of Christian Eriksen really has to play like he does for Denmark, and that is in a free role inside the opposition half. I think Manchester United, unfortunately for him, have got Bruno Fernandes, who plays at that number 10 role. So it's hard for him to get game time in that position. So they tend to play him deeper, and for me, he's a liability defensively because he's just not athletic enough anymore. Christian Eriksen, he doesn't have the legs, he's not got that mobility to track runners, and that's a real problem. So for me, he's a little bit of a luxury player these days, but Denmark know that, and they used him in the right position, and he's had an absolute blinder in this game. 5 shots, 7 chances created. That's an incredible individual performance from him. He faded a little bit towards the end of the game, but he was at the heart of everything that Denmark did. So good on him. And I thought the goal was a beaut. Quick throws are underused, aren't they? I mean, we don't see enough of them. Player teams set up and they do these set piece routines. Very rarely does anything happen from them. Okay, long throws sometimes do.
We saw Albania scoring from a quick throw. It just happened to be from an Italian player.
That's like the theme of the tournament, isn't it? Almost one of the big themes, quick throws. But that was the perfect quick throw, wasn't it? It was a beautiful assist from your friend Vind, and I thought that the touch and finish from Eriksen was great as well. So definitely one of the moments of the competition so far.
Okay. 1-1 though, it finishes. How much of a problem for England will Denmark be, do you think?
Well, they've got individual talent, haven't they? Højlund's pace in behind potentially might be an issue. He was pretty quiet in this game, but we know that if he gets in those, if he can run in behind, he can be quite deadly. He's sharp, isn't he, around the box? I think England-Denmark will be similar to England-Serbia. We should be on front. England should be on the front foot, should be bossing it, but it's not guaranteed. Because they have players that can push us back. They have a lot of experience, don't they, Denmark? So I don't think we'll roll them over. I think there's plenty of nous in that Danish side.
Equally, Slovenia, who England will then face in the final group stage game, looking in the second half a lot more dangerous than they had to begin with. And that Sesko shot, oh my word!
Well, Sesko he hits the ball so cleanly. He is one of the best ball strikers in the game today. There's no doubt about that. And the 2 efforts that he had, particularly the one that crashed off the post, was incredible. There's one that just whistled past the top corner as well. Sesko and Spora are a handful, and I think that they'll go direct and they'll run the channels and they'll make things happen. So they're dangerous opponents. I think of all the on paper, Mitrovic and Vlahovic looked threatening, but actually I think that the front 2 for Slovenia might be the sort of toughest that we encounter in the group stage, because I think that they've got a lot about them.
How painful did you find it, Adrian, watching Sesko and thinking what might have been?
A little bit, I can't say. I mean, I wanted him to join us, so I'm not going to pretend I didn't, because he's a great age. Great, 21, so much improvement to come. He's massive. He's a lot of these modern players are massive, but also technically amazing. And I would kind of put him in that category. I mean, Bellingham's huge, isn't he? He's a huge towering presence, but so graceful. And it seems like we're producing. Guys of that height used to just be good in the air, and these days we are producing, these physical specimens who are also as good on the ball as anybody else on the pitch. And yes, Šeško is a real talent, and unfortunately for the likes of Arsenal, him staying at Leipzig means that when he does become available, he's going to cost a lot more.
Indeed. All right, well, in the short-term future, then, he is a potential threat in store for England in this group stage, but a good result in other regards. Those two teams drawing and England winning against Serbia means they already have a 2-point lead at the top of Group C. Group D is already underway. Earlier on Sunday, Poland taking on Netherlands in Hamburg. And to tell us about that, fresh from the game, is Michael Cox. Michael Cox says, nice to see Wout Weghorst deciding this one. The Dutch have a habit, much as he said in an article, of churning these players out and then feeling a bit embarrassed about them because they're not aesthetically quite in their wheelhouse. What else did he say? He talked about... What else did... Oh, sorry, I can't hear you, Charlie. Oh, yeah, Holland, Netherlands. Netherlands forwards are all very individual. And when I asked him his general point about Germany, he said, well, it's going to sound stupid, but just there's so many fans here that the last Euros, because of COVID, you didn't get that. His last tournament was the Women's World Cup in Australia, bit of a long way away, and it was the Women's World Cup. So he's just kind of blown away by the sheer numbers. Charlie, did you see this game? I mean, we kind of don't need to go back on it because Michael's done it. We can move on to Monday's action.
Yeah.
If there's anything you guys want to say about Poland,
I watched the game and
well, I'll just
okay.
set it up then.
Yeah.
Thanks, YouTube viewer. Right, Michael Cox. Nice to hear him so happy.
Definitely. Yeah, look, it was an imperfect performance from the Netherlands. You know, it wasn't brilliant, but there were some good individual performances. I thought Cody Gakpo down the left looked really, really sharp in the game. Thought he was excellent. Tactically, there was a little bit of interest in the second half because I thought that Simons is a really good player, but it wasn't. When you play against wing-backs, that's what Poland had, you want to create 2v1s. And Dumfries is obviously a very attacking right back in this system, but because Simons was virtually as number 10, they didn't create any 2v1s. It was all down the middle, and I thought that the change that they made with Marlin coming on, basically adding a little bit of width, really made a difference, and they started to get a lot of joy down that side. So that was a little tactical point of interest. Memphis Depay really frustrated me in the game. Yeah, it was a showreel performance from Memphis Depay. 2 or 3 great flicks that will look lovely on YouTube.
Lovely little spin.
Yeah, lovely couple of some great bits of skill, but pretty much zero end product. In the moments that really mattered, he was poor.
Who cares?
He had a lot
Who
of chances.
cares, Adrian? That's not my words. That's what he says on his headband.
Oh, does it really?
Yeah.
I think if you
Charlie,
play
can you explain that reference?
I don't know.
I think it's an NBA thing.
Yeah. I mean,
Anyway, sorry, Charlie, you were about to say something.
No, I would agree on the Wout Weghorst. Always great to see him popping up. I mean, so dear to our hearts for that spell he had with Burnley and then at United as well. But because he had a big impact at the last World Cup. He scored that late equaliser, didn't he, against Argentina, and then started. Felt like there was a bit of a ruckus, and he was at the centre of that. Great tournament player. These guys who kind of pop up, and he is useful as much as it might be a bit embarrassing on some level for Holland that they're relying on him. He's a useful player to have.
Nothing to be embarrassed about there as the Netherlands come back to take a lead in the group because the other 2 teams from that group haven't yet played. That's France and Austria. They'll be going at it on Monday. We're going to take a very quick pause and then we're going to get on to Monday's fixtures. If you're hungry for more audio content from us here at The Athletic, then you'll be excited to know that the Daily Football Briefing is with you every day throughout the summer. All the football news that you need to know in a 10-minute show hosted by Ian McIntosh. How about that? If you'd like a deep dive, and who doesn't, into the big Euro issues, transfer stories, managerial movements, all that kind of thing from the Premier League, then it's the Athletic FC podcast that you might want to have a bang on. Ayo Akinwumi and David Ornstein, Adam Crafter, Matt Slater, all those guys are on there talking the big stories with their proper journalism hats on, much like we're doing now as we move on to Monday's action. What do we got? At 2 o'clock, it's Romania-Ukraine. That one's in Munich. Charlie, will you be tuning in for that?
I'll try and catch some of it. I mean, they've put these sort of 2 p.m. games so far. They have been the kind of maybe some of them the less glamorous ones. That Romania-Ukraine, that feels like a test of people's credentials, especially people who do actual jobs. If they can find a way to watch that at 2 p.m., good on them.
Well, there will be plenty of people who will be caring passionately about that game, as indeed there will be for the 5 o'clock match between Belgium and Slovakia. That's from Frankfurt. Those 2 games, by the way, are from Group E. At 8 o'clock UK time on Monday, we've got the other game in Group D as Austria and France meet in Dusseldorf. Should we go straight to Lee Wingate at this point? Or do you want to go to any other words? We don't really need to say any other words about Slovakia and France, do we? Oh, sorry, Slovakia and Belgium, do we? Maybe a bit on the end. Austria and Dusseldorf. France, we know all about. We know them, if anything, almost too well, Adrian. But what about Austria?
Wow.
A team who... actually, let me start this one again, because I was going to do it a different one. Dum. France, we know all about, but Austria, a side with perhaps the best form of any of the nations at the Euros. Their pre-tournament results have been absolutely extraordinary. How, why, and what are their prospects against the French? We're joined now by Lee Wingate from the Other Bundesliga and the Sweeper podcast. Bingo. Lee takes care of this for us. Again, YouTube viewer, thank you so much for being with us to see all the outtakes and other stuff. But Lee was in excellent form, and that's on the podcast. He says that they are in terrific form and that Ralf Rangnick has done all the things that you probably read in the previews. He's a big Rod Stewart fan. He took them to see Rod Stewart. Watch out for the player whose name escapes me, who used to be a PE teacher, who was training to be a PE teacher. Okay. What was his name? Ent something? Yeah. Okay. But yes. All right. And then and now we're back in the room. We don't have to, or perhaps we should just leave Austria there and talk about France.
Don't mind. Yeah.
Nice,
Yeah.
We don't have to do much more. We're kind of, yeah. Okay. But anyway, Lee Wingate there, as mentioned, also available on the Other Bundesliga podcast and the Sweeper podcast. I mean, Austria looked really impressive, but France, Charlie, France.
I'm really looking forward to this game. Yeah, it feels kind of perfect tournament early group game. You've got one of the big favourites and then one of the kind of emerging teams who we're kind of curious to see if they're going to be someone who does surprise us or whether they go the other way. I call them
dark horses.
Well, I know, sort of, wary of using that. Partly as well because it was Turkey last time, I think, and then they were dreadful. Yeah. So, I don't want to curse them. But, and I'm curious to see France as well. Talk that Saliba's going to start, which is weirdly unusual for them. He's kind of... Deschamps seem to have these reservations about him. Interested to see how that... If that happens and how that changes how they play. And they've got, some young, exciting players. So this should be a really good game.
They've got Mbappe, who was Golden Boot winner in Qatar.
Yeah, I heard of him, yeah.
Where France missed out on the world title by just penalties. They've got a terrific record at the Euros. Certainly the group stages. They haven't actually lost a group stage game at the Euros since 2012.
They're a quality team. They're worthy favourites, no doubt about that. I'm interested as well to see France. New goalkeeper, of course. Magnon are probably being between the sticks. Really impressed me over in Serie A. Austria are a great pressing team, aren't they? And I think that France have very press-resistant players. Players who are very comfortable on the ball. That might be a reason why Saliba's being considered to play. Obviously very cool in possession, used to playing out from the back. So maybe that might swing it in his favour. Austria have scored in 17 straight internationals. Ooh. So, this is a dangerous opener for France, no doubt about that. And remember, France, when they got to the World Cup final, conceded in every game but one. The only one they didn't concede in was Morocco, the 2-0 semi-final. They let in at least one in all of the other games, so they're not watertight themselves. So I think this could be a really good game.
Excellent. Excellent. It's preceded at 5 o'clock by that Belgium-Slovakia game. We spoke to Christophe Toureur just before the tournament started about the Red Devils. He wasn't desperately positive about their prospects, although when you look at them, the form equally that they've been on, unbeaten in 14 matches so far under their new manager, Domenico Tedesco. Romelu Lukaku, who wasn't so great in Qatar or for Roma, but has been absolutely brilliant in qualifying. What do you think, Charlie, about Belgium and their prospects against Slovakia? Do you know much about Slovakia?
I don't know loads about Slovakia. I mean, Belgium, I'm interested to see. I mean, partly the Lukaku factor, because he's another one, just talking about, players who we have perceptions of because of what they've done in the Premier League or haven't done in recent years. But he does seem to keep scoring at international level. Whether he will have enough, they will have enough. Ultimately, I mean, they feel, they were for so long they were the kind of up and coming, bright young thing in international football and didn't quite get over the line. Feel they're sort of over that peak, which is maybe where Christoph's slight pessimism came from. But yeah, I mean, I'm interested to see how they start. But I'd be very surprised if they were really, really there in the closing stages of the tournament.
Yeah, they got some great attacking players. Obviously, Doku. Interested to see him. Trossard, De Bruyne again. So they should be fun, but they don't have the pedigree of player at the back anymore, do they? Alderweireld and Vertonghen obviously with the experienced defenders. Wout Fash is there at the moment. He's a regular in the team. And the issue for me is then goal, because Thibaut Courtois has been left at home, and I just wonder whether Tedesco's decision to leave him at home and that little bit of friction that clearly exists between the two impacts morale. I think he's got a job on his hands if, for instance, the goalkeeper makes a mistake in the first couple of games. Are the players going to turn around and say to Tedesco, what are you doing?
Well, it's very hard to gauge, given my limited experience of the Belgium dressing room. However, some of the early signs after that initial rift between Tedesco and Courtois were of the players saying that actually Courtois was being a bit of a tit.
Yeah, and maybe he was. Yeah, but you also, as a player, you don't get many chances to play at major tournaments.
Yeah.
And if there's a gaff in goal, that's there's proper egg on face, I think, for Tedesco. Even though what he's done is probably morally right, he's left one of the world's best keepers at home, and the players could get the hump about that if results go against them. I'm just planting that seed.
Right.
Yeah, it's a stick to beat him with, isn't it? Potentially.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, Onana's another player I'm really interested to see, and I wonder if this is a tournament where he feels like someone who's always been looked at by the biggest teams, and I wonder if a good tournament here kind of puts him to that point where someone really pushes hard to try and get him.
Yeah.
All right, loads of questions then about Monday's fixtures. In about 24 hours' time, we'll have some answers, I hope, when we'll be back here reviewing all that action and having a look ahead to Tuesday, when I'm right in thinking that on Tuesday, does the group stage come to an end? The match day one comes to an end on Tuesday. I think so. I think we get to see the likes of Georgia and that, getting a thumbs up from producer Charlie. Excellent. All right, but anyway, next up, it's us back here with the live YouTube stream from around 10:15 tomorrow, and the podcast with you. I don't know why I'm saying all this, actually. Sorry. Anyway, right. Anyway, that's it for today's show. So many thanks to Dan and Lee and Michael Cox as well. Adrian here in the studio. Charlie there in front of his radiator at home. And in the booth, Liam and producer Charlie. Listener stroke viewer, many thanks to you for being part of this and making it all, worthwhile, really. Do hope you have a terrific 24 hours until we see you again. For now, from all of us here, it's goodbye. All right.